One of the most valuable characters in the Star Wars franchise is indeed Luke Skywalker, ranging from the originals to, of course, what we actually got to see in Mando Season 2 and the Book of Boba Fett. You can see how Luke really does bring this energy within the fandom and excitement as well. And that's exactly why a lot of fans, by the way, are really looking forward to Mandalorian Season 4, which is going to be very heavy on the use of Luke Skywalker. Now, with that being said, let's tap into what's been going on with Mark Hamill and a specific Star Wars TV show. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, given that, yes, Mark Hamill is pretty much tied up with a lot of upcoming Star Wars shows, he actually signed a major deal not so long ago, a couple of weeks ago, this multi-contract deal to reappear as Luke in multiple Star Wars projects by John, George, and Dave. However, one in particular was quite troublesome and quite a problematic situation for Mark Hamill that really pushed him to the edge and led him to quitting entirely from the series as the return of Luke Skywalker again. However, just this specific series, let's just be clear. Now, with that being said, the thing that really makes this all the more worse is that a lot of it had to do with, you guessed it, Kathleen Kennedy. Now, that brings us to where we stand today, alright? So Celebration is basically just around the corner. This April is going to be a very interesting time for Star Wars announcements, upcoming Star Wars shows to be unveiled to the audience, and more. However, alright, let's get on to the main subject here and exactly what's at stake. So, with Favreau and Filoni getting ready to make important announcements at Celebration, they recently have been making great changes at Lucasfilm. Now further, it's noted, however, that just recently Mark Hamill actually walked off one of the upcoming Star Wars projects and quit from the show that was set to involve Luke Skywalker by Kathleen Kennedy. Now, it's noted that not so long ago, behind the scenes, John and Dave were fixing a scene for Skeleton Crew that was going to involve Luke Skywalker with the help of Mark Hamill to guide the new technology provided by ILM to be used on himself and another actor to play the role with the new voice synthesizer technology. Now, Mark Hamill was actually set to take part in a very big action-driven scene where Luke was going to fight the Knights of Ren, who this time around would wield lightsabers in this specific sequence to actually protect the children who star in the show. Now, you guys may not know this, but in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics, the Knights of Ren still do exist. All pre-Force Awakens stuff, by the way, guys. Years and years beforehand, to be specific. And so this is John and Dave's way, or was John and Dave's way, of kind of giving us a retelling of the Knights of Ren, making them heavy Force users, wielding lightsabers, basically carrying out JJ's original ideas for The Force Awakens that never actually happened in Episode 7 or Episode 9. And that brings us to the most important thing about all of this, is that, of course, given that Mark Hamill was set to actually play Luke, and using this new ILM tech that was going to make him the true, flawless, young-looking Luke Skywalker that we all know and love from the originals, this was all sabotaged by Kathleen Kennedy, and we're going to be going into every specific detail because this is a part of Skeleton Crew, or was part of Skeleton Crew. And as you all know, we've talked about this, Skeleton Crew is and has been by far the most toxic environment under a Disney Star Wars project in history, ever since they took over Lucasfilm back in 2012. And that's how bad it's been. That's why there's been so many delays, so many setbacks. That's why they pulled back on some of the TV spots, or not TV spots, but little reels, so to speak, for promoting the Disney Plus service. And so there's been a lot of things happening with that too. I'll tap into that a little bit later. But let's go into the important stuff and exactly why things did not work out that led to Mark Hamill walking off the project and quitting from Skeleton Crew. Alright? So with that being said, Kathleen Kennedy, at no surprise, however, wanted to refrain from Luke using his saber or any kind of force powers in front of the children in this scene, and actually had control over Favreau and Filoni, and even Mark Hamill himself had big problems with this that he argued over with Kathleen Kennedy, that he did not want to be a part of criticism again from fans since The Last Jedi. And you know what, guys? Who can blame Mark Hamill? Who can blame him? I mean, the guy really had to go through probably one of the most toughest things in pop culture, where his character was so rejected by fans, and rightfully so, by the way. I mean, it wasn't Mark Hamill's fault, but we all saw the soul-crushing eyes of his in all the different interviews. We all saw it, we knew it, Mark Hamill eventually admitted to that, and it's just very much unfortunate that that's what he had to go through. And you know what? Much respect to this guy. He stood up, he stood up for himself, he told Kathleen Kennedy, "I'm not standing for that again," and he walked off, he quit. But that led to Kathleen Kennedy scrambling for a remedy for that. So, of course, this got so low to a point, the drama, speaking, that Mark Hamill actually quit from the Skeleton Crew show and wanted no involvement. Kennedy later got somebody else to play Luke Skywalker, and it wasn't working out, and she eventually cut the Luke Skywalker scene altogether. That has now been replaced with a brand new Jedi and/or Force user that will appear in the show. Now, it was the latest example of how this show held the most drama out of all of Disney's Star Wars. Now, we're not quite sure who was replacing Mark Hamill to fill in for the character of Luke in Skeleton Crew. That we're not quite sure about. But one thing that we do know is that it didn't last long. It really did not last long. It fizzled out very quickly. It was a part of the scenes before the reshoots actually took place a couple of months ago. And it's just kind of unfortunate, because I think that this would have really given a breath of fresh air to the show and to the character of Luke. I'm not saying that Luke is just going to save any show when he pops up, but all I'm saying is that it would have at least added some kind of element of surprise at some point in time. You had Luke, you had John and Dave reinventing the Knights of Ren, you had a great action scene, you had Luke using, his lightsaber and the Force, all these great and exciting things that fans want to see more of. And this was going to be a moment, by the way, where Luke was not hooded, his face was not obscured. You were going to see Luke Skywalker for the first time in full action, with his face actually in the shot, which we technically did not get in Mando Season 2, by the way. We actually had the hood over his head because all that fast motion at the time, the technology wasn't quite there just yet, until they fell into the deepfake technology for Book of Boba Fett. Now, that brings us to Mark Hamill. He's still very much involved with Ahsoka Season 2, Mando Season 4, and also new upcoming shows like Star Wars Mandalore, just for starters. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in on what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon.